this film comes from a lot of very grounded, real connections. You make a quote to Hans, the former director of the Biennale, who gave you a meteorite, and the connection to France from this is it's impossible to ignore the meteorite, the human connection, and the stars.
Well, it kind of rankles me when people say that nobody makes a movie alone, because there are people who make movies alone, and sometimes I have to do it. But in the case of this film, I am, and this being the world premiere, I'm certainly indebted to many people. I'm going to name a few of them, if that's all right. In particular, Paolo Calamita. Paolo, can you stand up, please? Paolo is my producer who also produced Museum Hours, and there are a lot of people without whom this would be a different film, but Paolo was the person without whom this would not exist. So I'm really very thankful, and in a way kind of mystified. Paolo has a very full-time job. He certainly didn't help me on this for 7 years for money, because there wasn't any. So it's just, yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Paolo. And thank you to Franz Schwartz, the actor who is not an actor and didn't have any interest in acting, but I sat across from him at a table one evening by pure chance. And as the meal went and we talked, I had this creeping, terrible feeling that I was going to have to put him in a movie. And I had no idea that he would agree or be so incredibly patient and open-minded. And he did just what I hoped that he would do. And the same for all of the other actors that are in the film. Leslie Thornton is here. She is not an actor. She's a wonderful filmmaker, artist, thinker. And I roped her into this in part because her own work often deals with physics and what we call the great invisibles. And so it was a kind of conversation in a way with Leslie and her work. And the same for Jessica Sarah Rinland, who is also not an actress or actor. She is a wonderful filmmaker and artist herself. Sometimes in the film when she's talking to Karl about what she does, she's actually just talking about one of her real life projects. So I don't know if Mario made it here tonight, but Mario actually is an actor, and I am very grateful to him. I'm also grateful to Alexander Chesapeake Cohen, my little boy. And I'm also particularly grateful to Guy Picciotto, who is a creative advisor. He's someone that I've worked with for, I don't know, it's like something like 40 years now. We worked together when we were doing a project about his band Fugazi, and he's someone that I can kind of, without any fear or shame, bounce ideas off of, and he's very straightforward and helpful, and came back to this again and again with me, and I'm just so thankful to know him and have him help me with so many projects. So thank you to Guy. I'm going to keep thanking people as we go, but I do want to leave some time to talk. But just, can I do a few more real quick shout outs? All right. Martin DeCicco is in the house. Martin is someone that shot with me for the New York scenes and the eclipse in Texas that we actually did witness. Another fine filmmaker and wonderful DP, but also just incredibly supportive and willing and really good at what he does. And Todd Chandler came down with me in 2017 to try to catch that eclipse. We weren't so lucky, but he was also very helpful. Ben Mercer is in the house. I am not a technical person. I edited this at home on a laptop, and I got into trouble, as I suspected I would. And Ben came many, many times and not only bailed me out technically, but was someone that I could really trust aesthetically. And I'm very grateful to him. Also to Jason Crump, who I don't believe could be here tonight. Jason is a colorist who works at a wonderful place called Metropolis Post. And Jason really did an amazing job, and it made me very happy to see his work up there tonight. I'm going to look at my list. Jack Rizzo is here from Metropolis, one of the few wet labs still processing film. We all got to thank Jack for that. Just a couple more. Gaston, I missed a flight, and he bailed me out in Vienna at the military parade. Brad Fox is someone who I think may be here tonight. I had conversations with him that were quite important. His book, the Bathysphere book, is a wonder, and it's very much kind of akin to this movie, I hope, in the sense of balancing science and politics and all kinds of other stuff. Highly recommended. I want to thank some executive producers and producers, Scott McCauley, who went beyond the call of duty, helping me out. And he's someone who has just helped out so many people, and he does it because he actually really still cares. So thank you, Scott. Thank you also to Paul Meze, who is not here tonight, but also was a wonderful help. And just a couple of more executive producers. That is such a funny name to me because my executive producers are never executives, but they are helpful in many, many ways. David Frankel helped. He's somebody that I've also worked with for decades. And Michael Stipe, I have to thank. He just flew in. I'm going to thank him not just for being a support over. I've worked with him for, 35-something years. He flew in to this screening from doing a concert last night to get out the vote. So I want to thank him for doing that, for being a mensch in general. And I think now we can talk a little bit more about the movie if we still have time. Although there's one other thing I don't want to forget. There's a scene, I don't know if you recognize, that was shot right outside at Lincoln Center. And it's the Amateur Astronomers Association sometimes meet out there and do their wonderful thing. They do it at other places. You can go to aaa.org and go and observe with them. It's just something that, I don't know, helps keep me afloat. I'm thankful for what they do. So there, I'll breathe, take a glass of water.
You've been doing this with them before preceding the film. This is an ongoing thing, or you started observing with them along the way.
I just, they pop up around the city, and occasionally I just go, and I don't really know them, they don't know me, but I just think it's one of those things that, it's also one of those things that I can't speak for their group at all. They're certainly not what could be called a political entity. But when people are out on the street doing something for free, giving this opportunity to people for no money, it's a political act, whether they know it or not. So that, to me, is a very wonderful thing that has a lot to do with what I wanted to say in this film.
I might have some other people to mention, but to get more thematic about it, you have talked about this film, and I think it's quite clear to those who have seen Museum Hours that you talked about this film as a companion film, in a sense, to that. And I was just wondering, just to start, I won't speak for you, I'll let you draw that out a little bit. So Museum Hours from 2012 also has some Vienna-ness to it, but yeah, if you could just speak a bit about that.
Well, it doesn't seem like I can fund a movie outside of Vienna to save my life. So thanks to Vienna, when I made Museum Hours, the Kunsthistorische Museum is right here, and the Naturhistorische Museum is right across the way. We had hopes to shoot a little scene there and have the museum guard's friend be a guard at the Natural History Museum, but we weren't able to do that. But then we got wonderful support from Christian Köbel, who was the head of the the head of the museum in Vienna, and he was just open-minded to artists who wanted to get involved with science. So Vienna, for many reasons, played an important part, and I do very much think of it as a kind of sister film. The primary reason really is because these are both films that where my mission was to take people and places and ideas and put them on a completely even playing field, which I think in a way is something that, I don't know, maybe is kind of unpopular in movies, because there's a lot of emphasis on story and stars and the other kind of stars, this movie has a lot of talking in it. It has a lot of science in it. It requires some patience, but and it also is, like Museum Hours, slipping back and forth between fiction and nonfiction at times when I hope that the audience may not know which is which. And so this whole notion of kind of making a film that is porous, that is open to the world, that is very important to me. And it's also important to me because it's a way to do things cheap. Because I can't separate that from I can't separate the economics or the difficulties of production with the film that the films that I make are the films that I'm able to make, and even so, it's not easy to make them.
And it's a value, right? I mean, being cheap is not it's not a joke. It's not like it's the less money that you have to owe, the less that that you're involved in it, I suppose.
Well, that is true. I would have liked would I have liked to have a wonderful sound recordist up on the mountaintop? Yes, that would have been great. There's a lot of departments that if you look in the credits, they're not there at all because they weren't there, and they can be wonderful. I had times when I shot in New York and did the main scene with the two actors in the Meteorite, Marlena Scrobe and Troy, who are here. They helped out, and they're professionals, and it was just a relief and a blessing to have them there. So it's not a matter of only wanting to work in a bare bones way, but it's just the way it is. It's very, very hard to fund films, and it's very, very hard to distribute them. I'm also very grateful that I have a distributor now. It was announced yesterday that Ryan Crivochet and Grasshopper will pick up the film. And that's a big deal because it's very, very easy for films like this in particular to sink like a stone. I mean, it happens all the time that wonderful films are made and don't get seen. Although I have to say, it's wonderful to be here in a sold-out theater with all of you people. But there's a part of me that feels like, oh no, these are the people who aren't going to come when it opens at the theater for 1 week. And that's no joke. I mean, it's happened to me before that you play at a festival or something like that, and then the people that you desperately needed at your opening were there, and they're not there when it opens in a theater because they've seen it. So I will implore you right now, When we do open, which I hope and believe that we will in New York, please, if you liked it, you tell some people when it comes out and try to send them there so that it stays afloat.
If you're already ready, no, for real. If you are ready, we can take a couple of questions before we wrap up. So go for it now. Otherwise, I will continue. I will go back to, like I said, another person that you credited, which was Hans Hertzsch, which you mentioned. This is a film 7 years in the making, and that refers to death, that refers to a meteorite, and maybe and it refers to France and all of these things, and also maybe this like more explicit. So many of your works are about constellations and connections and networks, whether they're about capitalist ones or affective ones. But this has so many explicit ways of being about bones and stones and death and sky. And I wanted you to speak more about the genesis of it, if you could.
Well, Hans was a friend and a wonderful supporter and a very wild mind, very close to Paulo and to Franz and to many other people. And he is gone. And C.D. Wright was a friend of mine and of Leslie Thornton's, a wonderful, amazing poet, and she has sailed on as well. And yeah, so I mean, you know, we are surrounded by passing and death on a personal level, of course, because that's what happens to humans. But it's also, you know, it's a terrible, raging part of life on Earth right now, to wake up and, you know, and be faced with horrific bombings, unnecessary, that our government helps to fund, and things like that, that if we also are not careful and end up with Donald Trump again, things that will become much, much worse. So the notion of extinction, whether it's the climate crisis or of what is done with military spending, is just omnipresent, and I can't. You know, it's a strange thing for me because I consider myself a political filmmaker, but a lot of people might not consider me that. You know, when it comes to like certain other concepts of what a political film is, they're often much more based on a kind of, you know, this word impact, and they want to know like what your impact plan is, and you know what you're going to do with the film, and you know, in a sort of advocacy mode, which is very important, and there are wonderful films that do that, but it's not exactly what I do.
And there's no reason to think that there's one kind of art or
or one kind of
political creation or one kind of politics that's going to get anyone out of anything.
No, there isn't, but some people do think that, and it's one of the things that has become kind of an odd stumbling block in the filmmaking world that I live in, is that it becomes hard to raise funding if you don't sort of meet certain expectations, or you meet them in unexpected ways. I do think that there's room for every kind of filmmaking, and that's what I believe in. So we must have one question out there.
Yeah, I mean, this is it, guys. This is your chance. Otherwise, I'll ask one last.
Have I bludgeoned them?
I see you.
Yep.
Mic's coming. No, the mic's coming.
What's your favorite celestial body?
Well, you know, it's very funny that you would ask that, because well into the editing, I realized I didn't have Saturn in my movie, and I'm a sucker for Saturn. There is the greatest thing about the street corner observation is when you see Saturn, and everybody does the same thing. They see the ring, And they turn to the person with the telescope and they say, "No way. Like, that's not real, the ring." Like, but even in New York, you could see Saturn and its ring. So I'm a sucker for Saturn. But I didn't put it in my movie. That's the way it goes. It's a missing object.
We can think about it, though. That's nice.
You can miss it. You can think about it.
Well, we have to go, but you're going to show this film again and then get distribution and stuff, so it's not like the conversation's over. Just this one.
Well,
Thank you.
I thank you all. Thanks to the festival for having me. Vote with your feet. Jed is here from Anthology, and when I think about films and I think about voting with your feet, go to Anthology too. You know, don't just go to the big movies. Go to the smaller cinemas, to the weirder cinemas, to the weirder movies. Thank you.
Go up.